This year is going to be the year that you break the summer attendance doldrums. What are we going to talk about? That's what we're talking about today. Are you ready? Because it's time.
You're listening to the Church Digital Sidekick Podcast, part of the TCD Podcast Network.
Hey, heroes, my name is Tom Pounder, and this is the Church Digital Sidekick Podcast. This is the podcast where I bring on ministry leaders, and we talk about how you can do ministry more effectively in this very digital and online world. And today I've got my friend Justin Nava back. Justin and I talk about how you can break through the spring and summer doldrums. You know how attendance goes tanks over the spring and summertime? Well, not this year. Seriously, not this year. This year can be different, and we talk about 3 different things that you can do today so that you can break through those doldrums, and that your summer can be actually a summer of growth, not just spiritually for them, but also for your church as you grow together, leading into the fall season. So what are we going to do? Does that look like? We're going to talk about that today, but before we get into it, I want to highlight the Church Digital. At thechurch.digital, that's the website, we've got tons of coaching, cohorts, we got tons of blogs and podcasts, all designed to help you in your digital and online ministry, whether it's metaverse, whether it's digital, whether it's online, whatever it is, we want to encourage you in that area. And so if you go to thechurch.digital, you can be encouraged every single day, and we want to be able to do that for you. So go check out thechurch.digital today. All right, so without any further ado, let's get into the interview with Justin Nava. All right, with me right now is my friend Justin Nava. Justin, how are you?
I am doing fantastic, Tom. Thanks for having me. Glad to be here. Glad your listeners are listening to this. That's the most important thing. Like
Yes.
you and I, we're going to hang out eventually.
Yes.
I'm going to go boo the Nats. You're going to come boo the Astros. One of us is going to go somewhere and boo someone.
Yeah.
But the fact that your listeners and viewers are here, that just means the world to me. And my goal is to make the next 30 minutes the most valuable 30 minutes of their week, aside from Bible time, family time, and really try to make this a turning point for someone's summer coming up.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. You always got great stuff to share, but I'd be remiss if I didn't say, coming up in a few weeks, the Washington Nationals are celebrating the 5th anniversary of the World Series that they beat the Houston Astros. And I think of a few people when I think of the Houston Astros, and you are one of those people. So now you did get to celebrate a World Series title two years, but at least we have ours in DC. So I'm excited about that.
That's fine. Everyone has their vices. We're all sinners, so I'll forgive you. Just as God has forgiven me. No, I'm just kidding. And but yeah, I'm excited to be here and talk about. We're talking about summer stuff, and we'll do sports talk with Tom and Justin at another time.
Yes, exactly right. Well, Justin, if anybody does not know who you are, you've been on my podcast a number of times, and you're very active on social media all over the place. But if someone doesn't know who you are, just do a quick little intro about who you are and what you do.
So if you don't know who I am, I take full responsibility for that, and I'm glad you're here. My name is Justin Nava, and I want to see 1 million churches become the cornerstone of their community. And I would love it if God called me to be a pastor, preacher, even a teacher, some kind of typical kids leader, kids teacher, homeless, serving, food pantry running kind of individual. Unfortunately, that's not me. For some reason, God has given me a bit of a creative bent, as well as a bit of an administrative bent, to see churches reach people in a way that they've never been reached before. And I believe if we want to see 1 million churches become the cornerstone of their community in America, and notice I say in America because not every church is going to be a mega church, big church, or even reach 50 people. You can still be the cornerstone, meaning you are the place that people know, even if it's just 50 people, know where to go to be equipped, to be fed, to be spiritually fed and nourished, to become the mature Christian that Christ has called them to be. All that said, I believe that one of the ways that churches can do that, and where a big gap is in communication, specifically communications to the outside world, which we call marketing. We have church communications as kind of a PC term for marketing, and a lot of people think communications means congregational bulletins, slides, texts, email, newsletters. That's communications. My focus is marketing, which is communications to the outside world, to get people to know the church, to get people to feel understood by the church and Christ and what he did for them, and to get them to respond by coming to church, coming to group, and hearing the gospel like we want them to. So it's all about helping your church become the best known organization in your community. Again, whether that community is just 50 people in your neighborhood or 5 million people in your city, every church is uniquely equipped to uniquely reach a unique group of people. That's what I'm here to help you get through.
And again, like I said earlier, you've always got great insight and great encouragement. You're always thinking about the church. You're always thinking about reach. And so I always love having you on here. I always learn so much when I have you on. So today we want to talk about summertime. We're moving into the summer season. We've had a huge influx of activity and energy around the Easter season, but typically this always happens. Easter comes, it's really exciting, and then the spring doldrums and summer doldrums go, and decline in attendance, busyness with vacations or sports or whatnot. There's always reasons why, but the people tend to not be as involved in the church. So today we want to talk about how you can, as your church, break that mold and reach people for Christ this summer. So Justin, you're going to come on here. Well, you're already on here. So Justin's on, and you're going to share. So talk to us a little bit about this and how what we can do as a church.
Well, I think number one, it has to start with the mindset. Um, Already, families are planning to check out. And unfortunately, we live in a kind of a society right now. We live in a culture where we used to say out of sight, out of mind, and now it's more like out of mind, out of sight. That I didn't come up with that. That was Dr. McIntosh. I just read it this morning, so I want to give him credit. So we sometimes we feel like, oh, well, people are traveling, so they're not thinking about the church. Actually, I challenge you to consider, are people, it's not that people are traveling, so they're not going to be thinking about your church, but really it's more like they're not thinking about your church, so they're going to travel.
Mm.
We know those families that will plan their vacations around church schedule. And ideally, I think all church members would be like that, or at least have some kind of approach to respect or familial ties to feel that that's important to plan your summer around. Other people, they don't think about the church past Sunday afternoon. So when they make those plans, they don't think about what's going on Sunday. They just make the plans. So already your church members and congregants and even your plugged in attendees, if they're not members fully, they're already partially checking out or they're already planning trips. You already know they're going to be gone.
Yeah.
A mistake I see a lot of church leaders making, and this is where we come into you, dear viewer and listener, is they check out as well. And it becomes almost a self-fulfilling prophecy.
Yeah.
So many people are going to be gone this Sunday. Usually Memorial Day is we used to call it a low attendance day, right? Remember high attendance Sunday when you try to, and I don't know, maybe it was a Baptist thing, but there was like one Sunday in the year, usually around the start of school, and it's like, everyone invite your friend. We're going to have the highest attendance Sunday we've ever had. And Memorial Day is kind of the opposite of that. It's the low attendance Sunday. Everyone's checking out. Everyone's going to be here. That'll be the time to have Miss Linda do her special music because only 80 people will hear it versus, so she can feel good. Anyone who's been in those back office leadership meetings knows exactly what I'm talking about. But I think it's a mind shift that needs to change, number one. It needs to be a change from the inside out. Leadership needs to sit down and say, I understand there's going to be a lot of traveling. There's going to be a lot of people like that just want to enjoy the Sunday and not be here. And instead of saying, that's just how it is, throw my hands up, we're going to have a summer slump. We're not going to plan too much. We're going to do stuff for the kids because they're going to be out. We're going to expect it. I'm not saying go to the ultimate extreme and start pounding your Bible on the pulpit and saying, everyone needs to be here every Sunday. But what if instead you said, okay, well, what can we do? And this is not consumerist thinking, this is leadership mentality shifting. What can we do to encourage people to continue to join us? Now, if you're more traditional minded, you might think, okay, well, after Easter, it's a great time to do a sermon series on the spiritual disciplines or small group studies on spiritual disciplines. It might be a good time to launch a new small group. A lot of churches love to launch small groups at the beginning of the year, at the beginning of the school year, but they don't ever do anything in the summer because, again, people are traveling. We don't want to start something. No, go ahead and say, hey, this is a season. It's a great time to join. Consider maybe you've got all your small groups. Maybe consider starting a small group in the summer because some people's calendars can be different in the summer. So that could be a good time to start, a 3-month small group. Another thing along that, I just had this thought, Tom. And again, every church leader is accountable to their flock in their own unique way. We all have our preferences. This is my opinion. Small groups, Sunday school classes, things that normally have a routine of meeting every week or 2 weeks should not take the summer off. Once you do that, all right, small groups, we're off for the summer. You're basically cutting off church from it's like not having Sunday service. It's because it's the summer. There are some people that only go to church in small group format. That was my wife when she was working nights at the hospital. She couldn't go to Sunday morning church, but our Thursday group was her church. And for other churches to say, well, it's the summer, there's a lot of stuff going on, we're gonna end small groups and we'll pick it back up when the school starts and things kind of get normal. Just, you wouldn't say that about Sunday. And if you want small groups to be that intimate environment where people can be equipped and work out their faith and really get things done and get things going in a more small home setting or group setting, why would you stop that in the summer unless you're telling your congregation it's okay, it's not that big of a deal? And ultimately, Tom, that's more of a symptom of, we used to be the cornerstone, the pillar of the community. This is the place to go and get answers and help and support and be served. And in the last several decades, we've relegated ourselves to the sideline and said, we don't want to offend you, we don't want to hurt your feelings, but we're here if you want us.
Yeah.
And again, when we treat summer as, people are going to be coming and going and it's kind of a light thing, so we're not going to plan anything too hefty, you're kind of doing the same thing, pastor, church leader. We're here if you want us. It's a secondary thing. It's a box of the waffle rather than the full sustenance of the meal, I guess, so to speak.
Yeah.
So number one, all that to say, mindset. That's the biggest thing. I think you change that, I think that will feed into the consciousness, the spirit of your congregation.
Yeah, I agree 100% with what you were just saying. And it's kind of really ironic that you and I are talking right now because I was in a meeting earlier today where, again, we recognize, hey, listen, the springtime, summertime, there's always the low attendance and all that stuff. And I said in this meeting, I said, not this year, not this year. We will not do that this year. In saying, hey, listen, that may be the pattern that people tend to check out, but let's fight that. Let's go against that and let's do what we can. And I like what you said there about, hey, don't take the summer off for small groups or Sunday school. Keep that going because it gives someone to do and to grow in their faith throughout the summer. You're not taking a break. You don't take a break from Jesus in the summer. You want to continue to help people grow in their faith. And so you're providing opportunities. It could be an online opportunity. It could be an in-person opportunity. The reality is you need to fight that. Now, I'm not saying to go and do this extravagant summer fair thing where you're investing thousands upon thousands of dollars. That could blow up in your face. But the reality is, do things throughout the summer, do things throughout the spring that will say, hey, listen, we're still here. We're still encouraging you in your faith and we're still helping your family. I love that mind shift change that you were talking about.
And we did that at a church I was working at. And one of the things we actually had kind of a bonus thing. So feel free to steal this. Our pastor said, okay, we want to use this time to experiment. Not that we expect people to not be here, but if people aren't going to be here, let's use this time to experiment and do something crazy. And I say crazy, I mean, it was crazy for us, an older Baptist church. And number two, so it was a good time to try something different because maybe if we had less people here, hey, great, less people saw our experiment. But number two, if it did work, then it would help us bust that summer slump. And when we tried it, we actually grew in the summer. Our numbers were actually higher than they were post-Easter in the spring. And that was simply, we just tried something we've never done before. It got people talking, got people's curiosity. For us, we did a summer series called Mythbusters, and we set up an anonymous text line. This was very big to do back in the early 2000s or 2010s. And we set up an anonymous text line and we said, okay, whatever your questions are, we didn't have Ask Me Anything back then, but that's essentially what it was, an Ask Me Anything. Set up an anonymous text line. People could text their questions and we would kind of anonymously, and then we would congregate all the answers. I would turn it over to the receptionist, and then she would congregate all the answers and then turn it over to the pastor. So there was two levels of separation. So the pastor could not tell who. There was no chance pastor was going to be able to see who was texting these questions. But the questions that came in were stuff that pastor had no idea our church was dealing with.
Hmm.
I'm talking about spousal issues, child parent issues. We were a military town, so there was a lot of finance issues, questions, and it was literally things that we would have never thought should be preached from the pulpit. And that's
Yeah.
the whole point of preaching from the pulpit. You don't simulcast, most churches don't simulcast Andy Stanley or Francis Chan or Joel Osteen because they're the best preachers, so let's just watch them. Every pastor preaches something that they wrote specifically for their congregation, for their congregation's needs, equippings, what they're dealing with in the community. They write unique sermons for that purpose. So for us to hear all these questions that are bogging down our congregation, and I'm sure we had small group leaders that could address it, but some of these questions were really best addressed by the pastor, and that coming from that authority from the pulpit. It was amazing. And I think some people were a little questionable, like he's not going to answer this question.
Yeah.
And then literally, I think the second or third week, we preached on spousal abuse. Like, what does the Bible say about spousal abuse? Is there abuse in marriage? Is there um, a certain kind of assault in marriage? Or is there a blanket covering? Like, what does that mean? Like there was a woman at least, and probably several women that were dealing with this struggle that they we're only okay answering. And so he used that. And actually, we learned, I think everyone learned something about marriage boundaries and things like that. And after that, like the next Sunday, we had way more, like I think the church figured out the pastor's not joking here. He's answering some questions. So we use that time to experiment. You're more than welcome to take that. I don't think Pastor Ken would have an issue with that. But think of what result do you want? Do you want people to come for a specific Sunday? Like, is there something that you can hype up people for? A lot of churches will do like a picnic, 4th of July parade. Hey, let's go figure this out. Other churches, they want more sustained. So it'd be a good time to maybe introduce something new that can generate curiosity or bring something back that would generate nostalgia. Whatever that thing is, the summertime's a good time to try to introduce that. Because if you want to beat the summer slump, well, you can't do everything you've done before that generated the slump. You've probably got to try something new. And for some people, that something new might be pastor's going to be here every week because normally he's gone for a month or two on sabbatical every summer. Well, no wonder you got a summer slump. It seems, even though I know it's not the case, it seems like the pastor's not taking summer seriously. So why do I have to take summer seriously? Again, I know that's not the intention, but reality is perception. Whatever people might perceive is their reality, which again comes back to that summer is just as important as everything else. So I don't have any definitive answers. I just want to get your brain going, brainstorm some stuff. There is one more thing we're going to hopefully have time to talk about, Tom, to really help get the community interested in the church and utilize the time of the summer, not just for kids activities, but to get people interested in the church. But yeah, I think experimenting and trying something new, like I said, worst case, a few less people will see you fail. But I think best case, the risk is worth it. You're going to have that sustained impact of people coming and being engaged all throughout the summer. Does that make sense?
Yeah, oh yeah, dude, totally. And when I was a youth pastor, I would experiment in the summers like mad because again, the whole idea is actually, when I started doing youth ministry, we did take the summers were off for youth ministries. Like, oh, take the, but then we're like, why would we do that? Kids are home, kids are around, they're more available than ever. Let's start experimenting and do different things. So we would do way different things. I live right outside of Washington, D.C., so we would do trips into D.C., go to the zoo, go to the memorials, whatever it is. But we use that as an opportunity to experiment and try different things. The same thing with online. Do online, if you don't do like online games, do online games or something like that. Find ways that you can just engage people and just experiment. If no one shows up, okay, nobody shows up. You tried it, it didn't work out. But the thing is just experiment. And I love what you had to say about the pastor thing too, is because I've been a part of lots of different churches over the years. And it is, perception is reality. If people come and think, oh, the pastor's not even here, why should I come? I mean, that's the reality is like, hey, the pastor doesn't even take the summer seriously. Why should I come here? We just got a bunch of guest speakers. They don't really care. They're just filling up time, basically, you know?
Yeah, it's kind of the importance of a little bit of a sidetrack, but I know several pastors that this will resonate with. They intentionally get to church early so they can congregate and meet people and catch up with people, and they will stay late to what we would lovingly call loiter. We want people to loiter after church. We want them to feel like it's a family reunion and they don't just quite want to go home yet. But if a pastor just comes and preaches and leaves, well, he's obviously checking a box. So therefore, I'll just check a box and I'll come, watch, and leave. So to have the pastor kind of lead that initiative, I'm not saying you can't take a Sunday off. By all means, if you only get 2 Sundays off a year, ask for 4 next year. But sure, take one off in the middle of the summer, but make it clear that this is like a very rare thing for the pastor. I know several like to take sabbaticals. I know one that's on sabbatical right now after Easter, and that's fine. But he made it very very clear that like this is like a one-time thing. This is not because this time's not important. This isn't because like who cares right now. It was literally like this is a good time for me to take my wife to this place. So yeah, absolutely. If you do an every year summer sabbatical, yeah, that could be a big thing of where people are perceiving summer is not a big deal for the church. And again, it places the church in a secondary role to everything else life is doing. And I'm not going to be one of those guys that's like, you're in travel ball, you're going to hell because you miss a couple Wednesday nights. Like, I'm not going to be that guy. But I think it does need to be some self introspection because if you just blame other things, well, you're giving power to those other things. Okay, oh, it's travel ball, it's summer ball, it's parents being lazy, it's da, da, da. Well, you're just making those things more powerful. But if you can introspect and say, like, what am I not doing? How am I not leading? How am I not making this clear? Guess what? You're giving yourself the power because you're the blame. And then you can be the initiation of, all right, how do we right this ship? And of course, that's going to be led by God's providence, vision he's given you as a pastor. But if you just keep blaming things, those other things, they're not going to give up their power. You got to take it back.
Yeah.
So I don't want to get all high-minded,
Yeah,
hoity
yeah,
toity
yeah.
like that, but that's been on my mind lately.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think, yeah, that deep introspection is going to be a huge thing.
So you talked about mind shift change, you talked about experimenting. What else would you recommend?
So the last thing I would recommend today is what we call branding. And really, it's not undertaking a new branding. It's reminding people again why you exist. Okay, remember, out of mind, out of sight. If you're not reminding people, especially in the summer, that you exist, then they're not going to think about you.
Mhm.
And when it's the summer, we had barbecue yesterday, I had a few drinks, or it's Memorial Day weekend, I don't want to go to this. It's much easier to blow off church if you're just not thinking about it as much. But if you can
Yeah.
be intentional in presenting your church to the community. The summer is a great time to put out new yard signs, new flags on the curb. A lot of churches, they tell me, all right, it's after Easter, turn off our ads. We'll start our ads again um, around the start of school time. Well, if you would run ads, like just like, hey, be like, hey, remember we're here. Hey, remember we'll pray for you. Hey, I know you're struggling with this. Here's a resource. If you continue to run those ads during the summer, guess what? You're in people's minds. You're constantly reminding them we're here for you. And if you're not constantly present when they do have an issue in the summer, guess what that perception is going to be? Ah, the church is there if I need it, but these other people, they really want to talk to me right now. Or this other thing is here right now. This vice is here right now. This chain is here right now, tying me up. And you just again taking a back seat of, well, we only want to reach people on Easter and when school starts. We're not going to do anything for summer. So the summer is a great time. We always talk about branding. It's really your reputation, but it's also bathing your community in the presence of your church, again, as an organization, but as the first step towards finding greater purpose, more meaning, more peace, more perfect peace. So taking the summer to get those new yard signs up, get the new flags up, redo your sign, go on a radio interview, do some podcast interview, pastor, write something for the local blogs, right? Get the best chef in your church have her write a recipe and submit it to the local Houston foodie blog or the Washington uh, cooking moms Facebook group or something like that, right? Just constantly raising awareness for your church. You'll naturally get more guests in. So even if your members do slump, their chairs will be filled. But then also your members are seeing that too. And they're constantly like, man, this church, they're here. Like our last church didn't do anything in the summer. And this church just doesn't stop. They must really care about me. They must really care about the community. They must really be serious about why they exist. So just having that ever-present branding initiative, whether you're adding something new or just continuing something you've always done, but doing it intentionally throughout the summer, again, it just comes from that mindset of we're not going to take the summer off.
Yeah.
Church doesn't stop after Easter. Ads don't need to stop after Easter. Keep them going because people are still needing Jesus even in the summer.
Yeah. Dude, this is awesome. And the key thing too to remember is that summertime is the transition time. People are moving into your area. So they need to discover about your church too. So don't turn off your Facebook ads. So I like how you said freshen up your signage, get new signs so that people are aware that your church is there, and that your church is serving the community as they move into into your community. I think it's really important that way.
Yeah, and new mover ads are great. That's one of the campaigns that we recommend. Every church should always be running a, hey, we understand life is hard. How can we pray for you type of ad? Every
Yeah.
church should be running event-driven ads. But yeah, every church should also just be running new mover ads and of course, retargeting ads.
Yeah.
Retargeting ads, you never have to turn off. They don't always spend your money, but basically if someone visits your website and Facebook knows about it, well, you can show your ad to them on Facebook. And it's much cheaper because Facebook already knows they have some kind of interest in your church. And again, if you're looking at, like I always look at $100 bill sitting here, and I think, do I want this $100 or do I want 1,000? I'm just spitballing a number, 1,000 people to see my church.
Yeah.
Which would I rather have?
Yeah.
Some churches are hurting enough, they'd rather have the $100 bill. Again, that's not for me to judge. But me personally, I'd rather go ahead and just have the extra 1,000 people see the church exist, and then we can come back and evaluate, is this something that was worth it
Yeah.
um, from a ministry standpoint? Yeah, new mover ads are fantastic. You'll see the numbers increase because people are moving.
Mhm.
Even if it's not um, from a different place, even if they just moved homes, they just moved across town, they moved to a different neighborhood, they upscaled their house or they downgraded their house, whatever it is, they're moving, they're entering into a new season of life. This might be a time they're more spiritually open to check out a new church or come back to church. And
Yeah.
again, all these things, your members are seeing it as well. And you're just reinforcing it to them. We are on mission. We are always outreaching. We are seeking growth. You reinforce that to your members. Again, it helps them perceive who you actually are as a church and where you're going as an organization.
Yeah. We recently just did a Facebook ad for an event we had coming up, and we only spent like 3 days worth of ads on it. We probably spent like $50 on it or something like that. But what came of it is that a family discovered our church, and it was a family of 6, and so they came to our church that Sunday. They got connected, and then their kids got connected to the youth group, so they went to the youth group later that night. They were looking for a church and they saw our Facebook ads. We spent, again, $50-$60 on that ad. It was just it wasn't about the event as much. It was about just getting people the recognition, saying, hey, we're doing this. We'd love to have you a part of it. They got connected, and now hopefully they'll stay connected in our church community. So again, $50. Facebook allows you with a small amount of money to reach a good amount of people in your community.
Yep. And you can reach a certain kind of people all day long. And I think a lot of churches get caught up in the what we call direct response marketing, which is I want 10 more people at my event. Here's $100. Facebook, you only gave me one extra person. This was a waste of money. I'm never trying Facebook ads again. We need to remember that things add up. People see you more and more. they'll say, "Oh, that's interesting. This church is doing a marriage conference. Great for them. Good for them. Hopefully, blah, blah, blah. Oh, this church is doing a kids thing. Oh, this pastor is like randomly praying for people. Oh, this church had a lady donate a van to someone who needed it in the community. Oh, this like it all stacks up. So I agree. Many churches need direct response, like, hey, we need people to come to church now. But there's also some ministry that has to happen through layers, through constant contacts and reminders. You don't just give someone a tract and say, here's Jesus, and then never talk to them about Jesus again if they say no. It's like you're constantly working on them. You're constantly sharing Jesus with them. You're constantly, doing more than just acting like a Christian. You're actually talking to them and having a relationship. And I think that's where a lot of churches drop the ball, is that you look at ads like a way to promote things, whereas it can also be a way to build relationships. And you want to be the church that's doing it during the summer, because there are other churches that are checking out in the summer and their congregation is like, why is our church not on fire as this church? And it could be because they're at a dying church, they're at a uh, false teaching church, or something that has a little bit other motives. And so I'm not saying we want to grab people from other churches, because I'm more interested in growing the church, not transferring the church. But that's just another way that you can show your community, show your members, this church is about acting, and we're never going to stop, because Jesus never stopped for us. We're going to keep going for you. I think that's just like having that mindset and then implementing it, which is again over the whole summer. And you said $50, like $150 a month, just
Yeah.
to continue to stay in front of people, because they're not going to see your sign. That's why I say put up new signs, put up new yard signs, put up flags in the summer, because they'll notice those things. Eventually, they're going to become blind to it. Again, it's kind of like, Tom, you ever let your wife drive and you're in the passenger seat and you're like, man, I didn't know that was there. I never saw that building before. There's a whole strip mall there. Well, I didn't know there was a welding place there. That's like, you notice these things when you're outside of your norm,
Yep.
and you become the norm of people. But the good thing about Facebook ads is it can be something different every time. And
Mhm.
so while they're stuck in Facebook, you can be there with something new. And $50 to change your sign for a month versus 50,000 to change the one outside, I'll take the $50 one every time.
Amen. 100%. Dude, this has been so encouraging and so awesome. As we kind of wrap up a little bit, how would you finally just encourage people as we're entering these summer months?
Yeah. So, okay. Elephant in the room. It's 2024. Every 4 years, the world goes to garbage. Okay. We just know that now.
What are you talking about?
You wouldn't know, Tom. You're in the DC area. So, all that said, this year is the most is an important time for the church to not let off the gas. Okay. And I'm not saying be involved in the politics of every 4 years. I'm saying Jesus is king no matter who's running, who's cheating, who's filtering, who's being hateful, who's bad mouthing, who's breaking the law. None of that matters. It's all about Jesus. And if we let the church be silent, those attention is a zero-sum game. If we let go of attention and we treat the summer lightly, the entertainment, media, politicians will gladly grab that and make themselves a god, little g, so that they have the power, they have the worship, they have your attention, they have your action. And so I think this summer is very important. As with any summer, the church needs to stay afloat and in attention. Like I said, go get people's attention. You can turn that attention into interest, into a decision to then engage with the church. And then instead of worrying about whatever's on Twitter, they're actually being discipled by you. They're being equipped by you. They're living the life that Jesus is calling them to, instead of chasing the distractions, that all that garbage out there. So all that to say, this summer, let's not let our foot off the gas, because I mean, I think the world has too much power, and it's just getting more. So the church needs to rise up and not just meet it, but exceed it, speak louder, speak higher, and point to a greater purpose and power in Jesus Christ. And one of the ways we do that, the way that I'm equipping you to do that, is to be visible this summer. And that's the biggest thing, is just be visible. Don't fall into the traps of distraction. Don't fall into the traps of, oh, well, this is just how it is. Be visible. and people will come to you when they need answers and need support because they'll know that you made an effort to reach out, not because you need campaign donations, not because you want someone to go to your camp, because you care about them, because they need something that you have, which of course is the love of Christ.
Yeah, that's a great word, Justin. I've said this recently to friends of mine that politics have become our religion, a lot of people's religion, and we need to talk about Jesus, and that's why I'm so passionate about digital ministry. You know, whether it's TikTok or Twitter or Facebook, we have an opportunity to really share the light of Christ in those on those digital platforms, and so we have that opportunity. So I love what you just said: be visible. Do not put your foot off the gas, and if you really want some encouragement on how you can be doing this, you got to be following Justin. Justin's all over the place on social. So, Justin, share with people where you're at mostly and how they can connect with you.
Actually, I've been spending a lot more time on YouTube lately. We do our weekly podcast, the Best Known Church Show. That's on Tuesdays, and then I just started a Monday Fun Day stream where I talk about things not marketing related specifically. We talk about AI, we talk about discipleship and discipline, and we kind of more free balling a discussion of what is it like to run a business for churches and what is it like to try to be a Christian family man in today's world. And it's about 30 minutes usually while I'm checking my email, but that's kind of fun. And then we got clips going up on YouTube and shorts and stuff like that. So you can check me out there, youtube.com/Nava Church Marketing. That's pretty much where I spend my days now. But you can go to navachurchmarketing.com and find all my links there if you want to connect further.
Yeah, Justin is great. I love seeing all his stuff. Again, I'm on TikTok a bunch too, and I see Justin's shorts on TikTok sharing his insights and encouragement. I love it. You got so much knowledge. So, Justin, as always, I appreciate your time. Thanks for being with me today, man.
I appreciate you, Tom. Thanks for inviting me.
All right. So, what did you think of the interview? What stood out to you? How were you encouraged? How were you challenged? What are the 3 points that Justin shared really kind of stood out to you? Again, as I said, not this year. This year can be different. You can be different. And I want to encourage you, if you've got questions, if you got thoughts on this, definitely put it in the comment section below, or you can hit me up at tom@thechurch.digital. I would love to talk to you a little bit more about this. I would love to encourage you a little bit more in this. We're all in this together. Online ministers, digital ministers, we're all in this together. Let's reach our communities, our in-person local communities, but also our expanded communities for Christ. And we can do that this summer. Not this year. This year's going to be different. And if you want some encouragement, if you got questions, thoughts, definitely put it in the comment section below or email me. Hit me up on Twitter, actually, too. At TA Pounders, my Twitter handle. I would love to talk to you a little bit more about that as well. All right, heroes. Well, thanks so much for being with me today. As always, if you enjoyed the podcast, definitely subscribe to it. It's on Apple, it's on Spotify, it's on Amazon, it's on YouTube, it's on all the different platforms. Subscribe today so you can get these when they come out. All right, heroes, I hope you have a great rest of your day, a great rest of your week, and until next time, have a great one.